Okay, I want to show you guys a couple of tips and tricks using Adalo that I've learned from building my app. So the first one that really hung me up for a while was creating your first database collections. You get users, but let's say that maybe my app has a collection called numbers, and it's great. You have a name, and then you can go add a property called numbers, and we have our new property. But I don't need name. I don't want text there. I just maybe want a list of 1 to 10 or something like that. But why do I have to keep this name in there and it's locked? I can't do anything with it. So a little tip here is what you do is you actually just drag this property up and look, it magically becomes your locked or your reference item in the database. And now I can go and delete name. So if I wanted, this number property, we'll just call this number list, for instance, and maybe I'm just going to populate that with like 1 through to 10, and then maybe I want that to like reference a true false for whatever reason is available for, I'm just going to call this. So that's one thing, especially if you're used to being able to like create databases, or maybe you want to try to have some sort of, unique ID reference or something like that in Adalo. The other thing that you're going to run into is times where you want elements to be maybe stacked on top of each other. And an example of this that I run into is an icon where maybe I want an icon that sometimes is going to link to an image and sometimes is going to link to a URL, depending on the information that's available in my database. So what you'll do here is you'll go and you'll create two items, and then you're going to stack them on top of each other. And let's say, for instance, that this is, sometimes visible, if, the user email is equal to something, right? So we'll just say Tony. So what happens here is when Logic renders or paints the page, when Adalo does that, basically it does it, as far as I can tell, by the list of components here, and it sort of starts from the bottom and works its way up. So if we have an item, let's say we have, 15 or 20 items here. If we have an item up near the top that has some logic, like our sometimes visible, attached to it, what can happen is something else can go in and take over the space on your page where maybe you're wanting to render something. And you'll get this happening when you do your preview where things are going to get out of alignment even though they look perfect here. And what happens is basically the rendering is happening where something else is taking over that space. And the way to avoid this is we want to basically what I call pre-reserve the space. And how we do that is we're going to add a rectangle and we're going to go and put that over the area that we want to reserve. Okay. And what you're going to do is you're going to actually take that shape now, and you might want to, rename it, just call it, say a boundary box. Okay, and this is a little bit of a hack, but it works. And what we're going to do is we're going to say, let's render our boundary box first. So when Adalo goes to paint the page, it's going to have a blank page and it's going to put this box there. And now once we know where that box is going to go and make sure that your item can fit inside of it, now what we can do is we can just take that and make it fully transparent. So the item still exists on the page and we can see it here. I can select the icons or I can go and I can select that box. And now when you go to preview, what'll happen is Adalo is going to go, I'm not logged in, so it's not going to show you, but Adalo is going to go and paint the box, and then it'll continue on through that components list. But what's nice is that if that component does end up needing to fill that box, that area is reserved. So that'll help solve some of your issues. And where you'll get into this is complex things where, you've got multiple buttons on top of each other, or you've got a button where it's like, if this condition, show this button, but if that condition isn't true, don't show the button. And also things like rendering special lists or like rendering a button if certain conditions are met. So anyways, there's a couple of little tips and tricks for Adalo that aren't really well documented and can make it a little bit frustrating to get started with Adalo. If you guys have any other tips or tricks, do a little recording like this and post them up and share them. The Slack community in Adalo is really, really good. So thanks.